What if I told you that one of the most powerful guides to fighting evil doesn't come from some ancient holy book, but from the fiery, straight-to-the-point words of a 19th century samurai revolutionary? Well, today we're diving into a really unconventional message, one that's supposedly channeled from the legendary Sakamoto Ryoma himself. And let me tell you, his guide to fighting evil is blunt, it's intense, and, you'll see, it's surprisingly relevant.
So, Sakamoto Ryoma. This was a visionary guy who helped drag Japan out of its feudal past and into the modern era, right before he was assassinated at the super young age of 32. So you have to wonder, right? What could a revolutionary from the 1860s possibly have to say to us right here, right now? Turns out, a whole lot, and his message is direct, kind of profane, and yeah, shockingly relevant.
So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll talk about Ryoma's surprising return and his, let's say, blunt style. Then we'll get into his core philosophy, this idea of the great cause. After that, we'll unleash his scathing critique of modern Japan, look at his wild views on religion, and finally, we'll unpack the principles of his very own Sakamoto Ryoma religion. Let's get into it.
Okay, so right out of the gate, when Ryoma shows up in the source material, he's totally different from the enlightened spirits who came before him. There's no big formal intro, no grand pronouncements, nothing like that.
He just pops in and says, "Ah, it's Ryoma." It's so casual, you know? It's like an old buddy just dropped by for a drink. This immediately sets this tone that is completely unfiltered and super personal. He is not here to be polite. He's here to tell you exactly what he thinks.
And he kicks things off by defining evil spirits as funjobutsu, basically spirits who haven't passed on peacefully. And then he cracks a joke that since he was literally butchered in his prime, he's probably one of them himself. It's that kind of dark humor and self-awareness that just pulls you right in.
And this whole self-aware vibe, it really builds into his entire worldview. Ryoma's whole idea of good and evil, it all hangs on this one central idea that pretty much flips conventional morality on its head.
This slide just lays it out perfectly. Look at this. On Earth, Oda Nobunaga is this legendary hero, right? And the guy who betrayed him, Akechi Mitsuhide, he's the ultimate traitor. But Ryoma says that in the spiritual world, their fates are completely reversed. Nobunaga's in hell and Mitsuhide's in heaven. How on earth is that possible?
Well, the answer comes down to this one crucial concept, Tai Yugi, which means a great cause. For Ryoma, all that stuff about personal sins or being virtuous, it's almost irrelevant. The only thing that really matters is whether your actions serve a higher purpose, a cause that's bigger than you are, like the good of the entire nation.
And this thinking leads him to just wave away what he sees as petty scandals and minor moral slips. He basically argues that if you're out there genuinely fighting for a great cause, your personal life is just a distraction. I mean, that's a really radical way of rethinking what it even means to be a good person.
Okay, so now that we're armed with this philosophy of the great cause, Ryoma turns his sights on modern Japan. And let me tell you, he does not pull any punches.
He just comes right out with it. I hate them. No sugarcoating. He is absolutely disgusted with what he sees as a nation that's just lost its way. A nation of people who've forgotten what it means to live for something greater than themselves.
He sees a society that's obsessed with gossip, with hypocrisy, people who complain about their taxes but then demand endless government services. But his biggest problem? Inaction. He sees a country full of people who just complain and criticize and do absolutely nothing to change their situation. It's a passivity he bluntly calls effeminate, meaning it just lacks a warrior's spirit.
And this is his challenge to everyone. Stop talking, stop whining, do something, show me with your actions. This is the mantra of a man who literally risked everything to change his country. For him, action is the only thing that's real.
And he doesn't spare the powerful, oh no. He sees politicians just grabbing for power, driven by personal ambition, with absolutely no great cause in sight. He argues that big corporations have a duty to serve the nation, not just their bottom line. And the result of all this failure? He flat out says most of Japan's post-war leaders are rotting in hell.
So, from politics and society, he moves on to his next target, organized religion. And if you thought he was harsh before, oh boy, you haven't seen anything yet. His metaphor is just as brutal as it is unforgettable. He sees tens of thousands of religious groups acting like cockroaches, hiding in the dark, doing things in secret, and just scattering the second you shine a light on them.
For him, that secrecy is proof of corruption and cowardice.
So what's his solution to all this? A religious war. Seriously, he wants the good religions to stand up and destroy the corrupt ones. He demands total glass-wall transparency. No more secrets, no more hiding in the shadows. If what you're doing is actually righteous, he says, then do it out in the open where everyone can see it.
So this all builds up to Ryuho presenting his own method for fighting evil, what he kind of jokingly calls his own religion. And it's a philosophy that's been boiled down to its most intense, actionable form.
And it leads to this really violent, shocking statement. Tie yourself up and whip yourself. Whoa. Okay, so what could he possibly mean by that? This isn't a call for self-harm. It's a metaphor, and a really powerful one.
See, the evil spirit he wants you to fight, it isn't some demon floating around. It's that part of your own heart that complains, that makes excuses, that just sits back and does nothing. And the whip? That's the painful but totally necessary act of radical self-reform. It's forcing yourself to stop making excuses and take responsibility for changing your own world.
And his whole doctrine really boils down to what you see on this slide. It's so stark. It's simple. The path you choose to live determines your final destination. If you live for the public good, for that great cause, you're headed to heaven. If you live only for yourself, for your own personal gain, well, you're going to hell. For Ryoma, there's no gray area.
So in the end, his entire message just turns right back inward. The real battle against evil isn't about some fancy rituals or prayers. It's a battle against the weakness and the selfishness inside our own hearts. We are the source of the problem, which means we are also the only solution.
And so, that's the question we're left with. Ryoma's message really forces us to look past our day-to-day grind, our petty complaints, our small comforts. He's asking us, he's asking you, to decide what truly matters. In a world full of tiny distractions, what is the great cause you are willing to fight for?